Welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Let's make something together. Hello crafter and welcome to my craft room. Today it's a very dull and wet day here in Mayo on the west coast of Ireland. Today I'm going to make a 5x7 card and it's called a Gatefold floating panel card. This card has been inspired by Positively Papercraft and I'll leave a link to her channel and her video down below. My card is a 5x7 card and this is how it looks. It looks like your standard 5x7 gatefold card, but when you open this card, our center panel inside pops out. Isn't that lovely? On the back we have room to write our message. I have two panels here, so we've plenty of room for writing our message. And when the card is open, this is how the back looks. And then this is how the front looks. Isn't that beautiful? And this card is a wedding card because I need a wedding card, so that's what I've made. So let's have a look at some of the products that I've used to make this card. I've used two sets of round dies, circle dies from the Love from Lizzie website. I have also used a stamp. This is a Card Making Magic stamp that I've used. I've used some stamps from the Simply Made Crafts stamp by Helen Griffin. And I've also used the Vintage Outdoor paper pad. And all the products that I've used will be listed down below. So let's go ahead and make our card. So I have my card here in my scoreboard. This is 280 GSM. It's the Crillando cardstock from Lidl. It measures 12x7 and I'm going to score this a number of times. I'm going to score it at 2.5, 4 3/4, 5 1/4, 6 3/4, 7 1/4, and 9.5, and these are going to make our gatefold card. Okay, so if you come in to the second score line here, we want to measure up 2 inches from the bottom and measure down 2 inches from the top. So I've come into the second score line from my left, and I'm going to use my ruler to help me make a little mark on the cardstock right in the score line. So I've come down to 2 and then I've come down to 5. That means I'm 2 inches up from the bottom. So I'm going to move over now to the 5th score line. I'm going to measure down 2 inches from the top, and again I'm going to measure at 5, which is 2 inches up from the bottom. I want to join those little markers together and I'm going to use a pencil to do that. Now you probably won't need to do this, but I'm going to do it so you'll be able to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to join the first 2 little markers that I've made and I'm going to draw straight across, and then I'm going to come across to the other 2 and I'm going to draw straight across from one to the other there. Lovely. So now what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to cut away some of our cardstock, and I want to cut away on the right of this side. All this here I'll cut away, and then on the other line, pencil line, I'll cut away all the cardstock on the left between those score lines. And I'll do that using my scissors later on, but you can use a knife and ruler or whatever you find easiest for you. Okay, so next let's look at our mats and layers. I have some silver foiled cardstock and I'm going to use this for the matte layers on the card. I'm going to need 4 of these silver pieces and they measure 2 1/4 by 6 3/4. On top of that I'm going to put some pattern paper, again 4 of them measuring 2 by 6 1/2. And I have 3 of those already glued down and ready to go, and I'll do the other panel there later on. So that's the first lot of mats and layers we need. Then we need some more, Again, we want 4 pieces of silver card measuring 2 by 6 3/4, and then I want 2 pattern paper and 2 white papers measuring 1 3/4 by 6 1/2. These 2 will go on the smaller panels on the front of our card, and these 2 white ones will go on the back. They're going to be where we'll stamp our sentiments and we'll be able to write our message as well. Next, I've die cut out these circles, and again I've used my Love from Lizzie dies, which I've gotten these 2 sets in 2 different kits, but you can use whatever you have in your stash. I've taken some of my leftover paper after I cut all my mats and layers, and I fussy cut out some flowers. I've joined them together so they'll sit across like so, and I've put some foam tape on some of them. This top piece has little foam squares all across the whole lot of it, and you can see there I've just joined one little flower bud to the others, and where it's joined I've used a white gel pen to cover up so it looks even. For your pop-up panel in the center, I find that it's better to use nested dies. Now I know that these 2 sets, they work well together, and that's why I'm using them. But if you have one die set, one nested die set, you could use those. And like I said earlier, I leave links to all the products that I can down below in the description. So I have my silver cardstock die cut out here. Now I die cut this out twice, once in white and once in silver, and I've stuck the white one onto the back just to make it nice and strong, and I used my Collal glue for that. My white piece with the sentiment on, I foam tape on the back of that, and that will raise it up, and it'll help as well to straighten it from the heat tool. Sometimes that can curve your cardstock, so putting plenty of foam on the back will help to strengthen that for you. So that's our focal point in the center. Now what we need to do is cut away our top and bottom panels that we marked up earlier. Like I said, I'm using my scissors for this, and I'm using my Fiskars. These are a soft grip scissors, and I use these for fussy cutting. These are one of my favorite pairs of scissors in my craft room, and I have about 7 pairs of scissors, but this is my favorite. And I have a black handled pair as well. They're Fiskars as well for making long cuts, and those 2 are the 2 I reach for the whole time. So I've cut away one of these squares, and now I'm cutting the other one away. You want to make sure that you cut away the score line. These need to be nice and neat because you're going to see them from the front and also the back. So take your time, cut them nice and evenly, and you'll be grand. So once I've that done, you can see here then we have this lovely H shape. I'm just tidying off the corner there. We have this lovely H shape where we have cut away these 2 panels from our card base. Next, we need to burnish the score lines. So I'm going to fold them over. So this one is a valley fold, and I want to make sure that they're nice and even. I'm making sure the top and the bottom is nice and even as well as I burnish those score lines. This one inside here then is a valley fold, and then we're going to fold back on that for the other little score line that's there at 1/2 inch away. I'm going to fold that back into a mountain fold, and I'm burnishing these really well because it will help your card to sit up and stand up nicely when you burnish these score lines. So again, I have a mountain fold here and then a valley fold in here. Lovely. And that's our little pop-up area that we're going to glue our die cut circles onto. So again, I'm just going to burnish those, make sure that they're nice and flat. Perfect. And it stands up really well. The only thing to be aware of, whatever you have in the center there, you need to make sure it's not too heavy because that'll pull your card down. So now I'm going to glue down my panels, and I'm going to glue the larger 4 panels to the outside edges on the back and front. So there's one down, and we'll glue the other one down. And like I've said, if you're regular here, you'll know I use the Collal because the Collal dries. It dries really rigid and hard. It gives great strength to a card or project you're doing. Because it's not a water-based glue, it's a solvent-based glue, it doesn't tend to warp your card. I have found that anyway, unlike some of the other adhesives. So your art glitter glue, your Nuvo glue, your cosmic shimmer glue, your Burley art glue, all those are a water-based glue, and sometimes when you're using them on large areas you can find that they can warp the cardstock. So it's good to use glue in the places it's best suited for. So again, I'm going to glue down my other panels now. These are the smaller panels. These two go on the front, on the inside, and then our two white panels will go directly behind those. But I want to stamp my sentiments on these first. So I'm using my stamping platform. This is a Misty that I'm using. You can use whatever you have, or you can just use stamping blocks. I know that these stamps, they don't stamp really well first time. And I'm using my Versafine Onyx black ink here, which I find stamps, it gives a good coverage. But I know these stamps, I need to use a stamping platform. These two strips are offcuts from when I was cutting my panels. They measure 1/4 of an inch and they're about 1 3/4 that I'm going to cut them down to. I want to embellish my white panels there. I want to pull in the pattern paper onto those two panels. The leftover strip, I'm going to glue that down onto the front of my envelope, and that just carries the theme through. So I'll glue them down, and again I'm going to use my Collal glue, and then I'll stick these onto the back of the card. Now the center panel at the very back, you could put mats and layers on that if you wanted to, but I didn't really think it was necessary to do that. But like I said, it's up to you. You could always measure that little rectangle piece in the center and put some mats and layers in there if you like. Perfect. I love that. I love the back is just as pretty as the front. So now I'm going to take my die cut circle sentiment piece. I'm going to stick that down onto my silver cardstock. I'm going to use a little bit of glue along the foam. That just means that when I sit the foam down onto it, I have a bit of wriggle room, because sometimes if your foam is very sticky and it touches off your cardstock, that's it. It can be down, it can be very hard to pull it up. So I like to use a little bit of the liquid glue just so I've got a little room for maneuvering. And I'll do that on these little flower embellishments as well. So I'm happy with that now. I'm going to put my big flower embellishments to the bottom. Again, I'll put some glue on the foam tape and some glue in the center part, because I want the center of my flowers to be stuck down on my panel, but I want the edges to have dimension with the foam tape. I love that. It nearly looks like decoupage with all the lovely layers. Fab. So I'm going to add some glue, and now I'm using my art glitter glue for my center panel, and I'm going to put glue all over that, and then I bring over my die cut circle. Now you could have it lower down to the bottom or higher up to the top. It depends. You could be using an oval or a rectangle piece. So I have mine centered nicely in the middle. And there we go. There is our Gatefold floating panel card. Now you can embellish even the inside panels or the outside panels if you like, but I'm leaving them plain. I like it just the way it is. And I want to show you, this fits perfectly into a ready-made envelope for a 5x7 card. Fits in there beautifully. I'm delighted with that. And it comes out lovely as well. And it just displays so nicely. You can have it set like that. You could have it so that the front pops forward more and the sides go back. It just depends on the recipient how they want to show off this card. I'd like to thank Anne as well, Anne Melvin from Positively Papercraft, for inspiring this card. I loved it, and I'll leave links to her YouTube tutorial down below. So there you go. I hope you liked my video, and if you did, you might consider giving it a thumbs up. That way the little YouTube bots will know that you enjoyed it. If you're a subscriber, thanks for subscribing. And if not, you might click on that bell icon. That way you'll be notified each time I post a new video. Here's some images of the card that we made today. Don't forget you can find me on social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Reddit. And until next time, folks, stay safe, have a great weekend and see you soon.